All right, the fern life cycle. We recognize ferns most of the time. Yeah, big old leafy what's? Fronds, they're called fronds. There's the term up here, frond. And when we see a frond, like when we see the frond, what generation are we looking at? The sporophyte. And so the sporophyte is the prominent generation for all in this group. The seedless vascular plants, or vascular seedless plants. What are the fronds connected to? Kind of depends on what part of the world you're in. If you see a tree fern, it's connected up high in the tree to something, but in the northern hemisphere, not too many tree ferns, if any, and so they are connected to underground stems. The common term for an underground stem is a rhizome. You say, how come you don't call it a root? Well, a leaf is attached to it. Leaves aren't attached to roots. They're attached to stems. So this is an underground stem. Now we have this item here called a fiddlehead. The leaf unrolls in a pretty interesting fashion. I should say the frond unfolds in an interesting fashion in what is called a fiddlehead. So we have some pictures of that. Here's some little bitty fiddleheads. These are unrolling fronds, baby fronds, and given half a chance they'd unroll and form a full-fledged frond. Here is a big one, and this would be bigger than your fist. This old fiddlehead would be, and so you can see all the little leafy parts inside there, and so it unrolls and forms the big old fern frond. All right, so we have the fronds, we have the rhizome, we have the fiddleheads. Now, underneath the fronds, often there will be something that looks maybe sort of like this. And this is actually, these are actually covers, little shields, and all those little guys sticking out under the shields are sporangia. Let's take a look at some other pictures of this phenomenon. They're on the other underside of the fronds. Here they are in one type of fern, and they form a nice regular pattern. They're not a disease. I had a student bring me a leaf off their home frond one time and asked me, what kind of disease? No, it's not a disease. These are structures containing sporangia. And here's a picture from your book showing some of the different forms these sporangia containing structures can take. And so here's one of the slides from your lab. And so we have across the top what? We have the fern frond. So this is underneath one of the parts of the fern frond. And here's the frond. This is which generation again? The sporophyte generation. And this is like an upside down umbrella. It's called what? It's called an indusium, like an upside down protective umbrella. And under the umbrella are a whole bunch of little sporangia. They're on stalks. Kind of looks like a one of those musical instruments. You grab the handle, you shake it, it rattles. But what's rattling inside? Well, it depends on whether it's before meiosis or after meiosis. Before meiosis, those are little round things inside the sporangia are what? Sporocytes. After meiosis, they are what? Spores. Here they are up close and personal. We see the stalk, we see the sporangium, we see the spores or sporocytes inside the sporangia. And so they're a very nice little picture there. Here's a picture from your book. And I don't know why they drew them right side up. They should really kind of be upside down. But at some point, this annulus, it says annulus, didn't spell that correctly, should be annulus. It dries up, and annulus means ring, by the way. It kind of forms a little ring around the sporangium. When it dries out, it pulls tight and pops open the sporangium, and off go the spores. Off they go. And so here is our indusium here in this picture, this upside down umbrella. Here's all the sporangia. You can see them up here. This would be an indusium. All these sporangia kind of sticking out around the indusium, and here they are filled with sporocytes that undergo meiosis. It says producing spores. So the spores go forth. The spores divide by what process? Meiosis, forming a little gametophyte. a little heart-shaped gametophyte. Pretty little thing. Here's one just growing on the soil, a very translucent, beautiful translucent green. This is a picture from your book. Here's another picture from your book, kind of a heart-shaped structure. And we want to take a closer look at some of these things in this. This is called the notch here. And so we have some structures growing. What are they? Well, this is the female gametophyte, so they must be something. Here's, again, a picture from your book. And what they are is little stubby bottles, upside down bottles, as a matter of fact. And at the bottom of these bottles would be what kind of cell? An egg cell. Here's some pictures your professor took. First of all, the gametophyte. What's the chromosome number of each one of these nuclei? N. That's right, it is N. We're working our way from left to right. And here we are at the notch. We see the same sort of thing. What are these? These are archegonia. They are archegonia. Let's take a closer look. You have to kind of focus up and down through them, but they look like little bottles. And there's an egg at the bottom of the bottle. It kind of comes up like this. It actually is face down in the soil, so these bottles are facing downward. Here's one up close and personal. You kind of see the neck of the bottle. Here is the bottle, the archegonium. Here's the base of the bottle down there. Here's the base in more of a focus. And there'll be an egg cell at the bottom of this little archegonium. And so there you have it. And so what were we just looking at? We were just looking at this. And so this little gametophyte has usually around the notch these archegonia face down into the soil, an egg at the bottom of the bottle. Now where are the antheridia? Well, often they are right here, kind of down toward these rhizoids, but often they're on a different gametophyte, But here's a picture of some antheridia. Of course, up here we have archegonia. So let's take a look at some other pictures of this. This is from your book. These are antheridia, look like little bubblegum machines. What are all these little guys developing inside these antheridia? Sperm cells, that's right. Here is a gametophyte that has nothing but antheridia. Let's take a closer look. Oh yeah, we can sure see them now. And of course, each one of these is a what again? An antheridium. What are those little guys developing inside? They are sperm cells. Here we are up close and personal. Some antheridia with sperm cells developing inside. All right, and so we got sperm cells developing in the antheridia. We've got egg cells developing in the archegonia. Both of these are kind of on the bottom side of the gametophyte, so they're down in the soil. And so at the proper time, things mature, sperm cells swim forth, the antheridia pop open, sperm cells swim forth, they found the bottle, they fertilize the egg, forming a zygote. And then we have a very interesting two-generational phase, because the gametophyte doesn't go away just right away. And where did fertilization take place? On the top side of the bottom side of the gametophyte. It took place on the bottom side. So initially, the sporophyte, here's the young sporophyte, grows downward, but it usually always figures out which way is up and comes up through the notch. And so we have a two-generation combo, a young sporophyte attached to a gametophyte. Of course, attached where again? Attached at the archegonium. So here's a picture of that, the two-generation combo. We've got some of those ourselves, but here's a little earlier stage. What is this? This is a little embryo. What is it in? It's in a very stretched out, what? Archegonium, yes. Now, here's a whole bunch of other archegonia. Did any of the rest of them get fertilized? No, just this one. Just one got fertilized. So what's the chromosome number of all the cells in this little embryo, this little fern embryo? 2N. What's the chromosome number of all these cells out here? N, yes, indeedy. And so here's an embryo up close and personal, stretching its container, and its container is again a what? An archegonium. Yes, an archegonium. And so that is this stage right, well, that's before this stage right here. A little bit later stage, then the sporophyte develops from that little embryo, and so here we have it. This is a rhizome, growing down. And here we have where the initial fertilization took place, the rhizome growing down, the stalk of the sporophyte growing upward, stalk or stem you might say. And so here we have the gametophyte on the left and the right. We have the new sporophyte growing upward, 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 and we have the pretty little sporophyte here. And every cell in this picture is now what chromosome number? It is what? It is 2N. That is correct. And here we have another view of the sporophyte, the moss sporophyte. So ladies and gentlemen, that in pictures is the life cycle of a fern. All right, bye-bye.